Welcome back everybody, another video about Luke Skywalker, his death and what George Lucas had originally planned for his sequel trilogy. It's basically another what if video and will be based on an IGN article where Mark Hamill lets us know that he was shown by George Lucas what would have eventually happened to his character if Lucas had gone ahead with his sequel trilogy. Let's take a look at the article and then I'll share some of my thoughts. Speaking to IGN about the differences in approach to the character of Luke Skywalker between J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson, Hamill suddenly changed tack and explained, "I happen to know that George didn't kill Luke until the end of episode 9, after he trained Leia, which is another thread that was never played upon in The Last Jedi. This is the first time we've heard that Lucas intended to end the Skywalker saga with Luke's death. While the original expanded universe saw Leia trained as a Jedi Knight, although not by Luke, it also hadn't been publicly mooted as part of the film's storyline. Similarities remain in The Last Jedi. Luke seems to have met his end a film earlier than Lucas planned for, and Leia does, somewhat controversially, show her skill with the Force. But it's clear that Lucas had different plans for the returning characters. It's not quite clear which of Lucas's episode 9s this particular ending comes from. The Star Wars creators' plans for a sequel trilogy were many and varied, before Disney bought the rights and made one itself. Before Return of the Jedi had been written, Hamill said he had seen 12-page outlines for each of Lucas's episodes 7 through 9. However, Lucas seemingly abandoned the idea and incorporated many elements, including the idea that Luke had an estranged sister, into Jedi instead. Lucas continued to hint at his ideas for a sequel trilogy over the years, from the familiar Luke, Leia and Han returning as characters later in their lives, to the less familiar, a fractured empire has devolved into individual tyrannical worlds. However, the critical reception to his prequel trilogy apparently all but killed off Lucas's drive to continue with the series for some time. Many of the suggested story ideas are seemingly contradictory, indicating that Lucas never had a set plan. Pre-Disney takeover, Hamill said that Lucas's idea was to have Luke returning for a cameo in Lucas's episode 9, but his new comments seem to indicate a much more central role. That perhaps points to this idea of Luke training Leia before his death being part of a newer plan. Lucas did indeed write a new treatment for a sequel trilogy as the series transitioned into becoming a Disney property, but Kathleen Kennedy scrapped the majority of his ideas in favor of J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan's Force Awakens script, and the direction that took the new films. It may be that Hamill's new comments refer to this later treatment. Recently, Rey actress Daisy Ridley revealed that J.J. Abrams had himself written treatments for a full sequel trilogy, but that Rian Johnson had used little of it for The Last Jedi. Hamill says he doesn't know whether Abrams plans to use his original ideas now that he's returning to direct episode 9. More generally, Hamill compared the approaches between Lucas and Disney's Star Wars films. George had an overall arc. If he didn't have all the details, he had sort of an overall feel for where the sequel trilogy was going. But this one's more like a relay race. You run and hand the torch off to the next guy. He picks it up and goes. Rian didn't write what happens in episode 9. He was going to hand it off to originally Colin Trevorrow and now J.J. Abrams. It's an ever-evolving, living, breathing thing. Whoever's on board gets to play with the life-size action figures that we all are. Hamill remains unsure about whether he'll be returning in some form for episode 9. No one's really talked to me about it, but he isn't holding back his opinions on where Star Wars should go. Some of those opinions are more outlandish than others, like the Force Ghost horror movie he told us he wants to see. So okay peoples, the more we learn, the less we know. So much information that contradicts itself. So here we have news that Luke Skywalker was originally going to make a cameo in episode 9, but that got reworked and Lucas planned for him to have a much larger role in the sequel trilogy. I think most of us were expecting him to eventually sacrifice himself, although if you ask me, why did he need to die at all? Why did he need to be another Obi-Wan Kenobi? The Last Jedi gets praised for trying some new things, but the hermit teacher who dies isn't exactly a new idea. But I digress. Lucas had originally intended for Luke to go out at the end of episode 9. So George Lucas had an outline for the sequel trilogy. It states in the article that even J.J. Abrams had an outline for the sequel trilogy. And along comes Rian Johnson, throws it all away, gets praised by critics for subverting expectations, divides the fan base, and leaves J.J. Abrams with what exactly? No big bad. The Resistance is shattered. The First Order has to regroup as well, I guess. So there will most likely be a big time gap. But hey, there's always the possibility of Reylo. Or is it there? So you might think I'm biased here because I do have a channel where I did a lot of theory videos, and you're probably right, but after The Force Awakens, episode 8 theory videos were popping up like mushrooms. I mean, who's Snoke? Who are Rey's parents? What will Luke's first words to Rey be? I wonder how dangerous these Knights of Ren are gonna be. The Star Wars community gathered together and all sorts of crazy ideas were proposed, from Luke being evil to Snoke being a failed Anakin clone. The list goes on and on. But the hype was real. People were looking forward to The Last Jedi. Give us some answers, damn it. Now, after having seen The Last Jedi, what's there to speculate about really? Luke coming back as a Force ghost? Kylo Ren being redeemed by Rey? I guess so. I'll tell you what, if The Last Jedi was episode 9, it would have made much more sense in the grander scheme of things. You have Snoke being betrayed, Luke goes off in person and helps the Resistance on Crate, and Kylo and Rey duke it out on the Supremacy. I mean, the set and the scenery were perfect for such a conclusion to a trilogy. But I get the feeling Rian Johnson was trigger happy here. He wanted to make all the important and big decisions in his movie, and now episode 9 will be about Starkiller Base 2.0 and more General Hugs jokes. I don't know. So there you have it, peoples. Once again, Mark Hamill lets us know as to what could have been, and him knowing this probably added to his original discomfort and bewilderment at Rian Johnson's decisions and direction for episode 8. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you are new here and enjoyed yourself, hit that notification bell to stay updated with this channel. And don't forget to like, share, sub, and all of that good stuff. And until next time, see yas!